Hello friends, welcome to Akul Mac Live. Donald Trump's recent claim that the US has lost India and Russia to the deepest, darkest China has ignited a global debate. But what is the real story? In this video, we will dive into the complex geopolitical realities behind the Trump statement. We will explore the current state of relationship between US, India, Russia and China, examining the key issues like trade tariffs, energy deals and military cooperation. Let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to our deep dive into one of the most provocative geopolitical statement of the recent time. Just a few days ago, President Donald Trump declared a unequivocally that the United States has lost India and Russia to the deepest, darkest China. Now that's a statement that immediately grabs our attention, isn't it? It's designed to be dramatic, to be memorable, and to spark a conversation, and indeed it has. But beyond the headlines, beyond the political rhetoric, lies a much more complex reality. Is America truly losing two of the world's most significant powers to its primarily geopolitical rival? Or is this a gross oversimplification? A misreading of intricate global alignments that are constantly shifting and evolving. Today, we are going to unpack this claim. We are going to examine it from all angles, look at the evidence, and try to determine, is Trump right? Has America truly lost India and Russia to China? Or is the truth is often the case in international relations far more nuanced and perhaps even the opposite of what he has suggested? So join me as we explore the intricate web of alliances, rivalries, and strategic interest that defines this crucial geopolitical triangle. Let's start by understanding what Donald Trump likely means when he makes such a sweeping statement. His perspective is typically rooted in a transactional zero-sum view of the international relations. For him, if a country isn't explicitly aligned with the US and its interest, it's effectively lost to a rival. What is zero-sum game? To explain this concept, if one gains, the other loses. In Trump's view, if India or Russia is engaging with China, it's directly viewed as a loss for the US. The deepest, darkest China. What does this mean? This phrase is highly provocative and plays into a narrative of China as a monolithic, aggressive, and shadowy power. It frames China as a threat to be countered and any association with it as detrimental. So, what is the historical context, especially the Trump era? Remind view of the Trump's previous foreign policy approach, which is America first, the confrontational stance with China, trade wars, pushing allies to pay more. His current comment resonates with that past rhetoric. Focus on the economic and military power. So Trump often, evaluates a country's alignment based on the economic dependency and military partnership. So if India is buying Russian oil or engaging in economic initiatives with China, he might interpret this as a shift away from the US. Implied message to American voters. Definitely, this is one of the reasons. Such statements often have domestic political purpose to highlight the perceived weakness in current US foreign policy or to rally support for a stronger, more assertive stance. So when Trump says America has lost India and Russia, he is suggesting a failure of the American diplomacy, a strategic blunder that he pushed these nations into the embrace of Beijing. But is this an accurate depiction of the incredibly complex relationship these countries maintain? let's break down the reality starting with India. The idea that India has been lost to China is perhaps the most contentious part of the Trump's claim, and frankly, the least supported by the evidence. The India's foreign policy has long been characterized by a principle called strategic autonomy. What does this mean? It means India pursues its own national interests, maintaining good relations with multiple global powers without becoming a junior partner to any single one. Now let's look at India-China relations, which is a very complex situation, and it is it's they are not in any sort of alliance at this point in time. Starting with the border dispute. So emphasis the long-standing and often violent border dispute like the Galwan Valley in 2020. This is a fundamental point of friction, making a full alliance impossible for India until and unless this border issue is resolved. What about the geopolitical competition? Both are aspiring regional hegemons. China's Belt and Road Initiative, also known as BRI, is seen by India as encircling it, which is they're talking to Pakistan and Sri Lanka and other countries. So definitely it's a very contentious issue for India. Now let's talk about economic imbalance. So while trade exists between India and China, India is wary of over reliance on China and its trade deficit. Now also talk about Quad, because India is an active member of Quad. So what is the Quad? Quad is the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, known as QAAD. Alongside US, Japan and Australia, it's a clear counterbalance to China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. This is a strong argument against India being lost to China. Right? Now let's examine the India-US relationship, which has been growing constantly for almost over 2 decades. So let's look at the defense cooperation. There has been an increasing defense deals, technology transfer, joint military exercises between the two nations. The US sees India as a crucial partner in the Indo-Pacific. Let's examine economic ties. There has been a growing trade and investment through even though there are a lot of challenges still remains. The Indian diaspora in the US plays a significant role to establish connections between the two nations. And also there are shared values which are basically based on the democracy. Both are large democracy, a point often emphasized by both sides. And then let's look at the high level engagement. There has been frequent visits and dialogues at the highest level, starting from the global leaders to department level to ministry level association. Now let's look at the India-Russia relations. This is considered to be a legacy partnership and still evolving. There has been a huge long-term and historic ties between India and Russia, rooted in the Cold War era when the Soviet Union was a key arms supplier and also a political ally for India. Now, if you look at India, especially Russia and India, there has been a defense dependence, which is past as well as in the present. Russia remains a major, though decreasing supplier of the military hardware. India's need spare parts and maintenance of its existing Russian-made equipment. Examine the energy deal, because I think the US is looking at this portion of the business between India and Russia with a lens. So post-Ukraine war, India has increased its purchase of the discounted Russian oil, driven by the economic pragmatism, not political alignment against the US. Now let's look at diversification. India is actively diversifying its defense purchase, so between US, France, Israel, Russia, etc., to reduce reliance on Russia. And I must tell all the viewers here that the India is now sort of self-reliant in the defense services. More than almost 80% of the equipment for defense is manufactured in India now. Now, so from the India point of view, this is balance, not betrayal. India's engagement with Russia, especially in the fora like BRICS or SCO, is often about maintaining a balance and influencing in a multipolar world, not abandoning the West. To summarize, India's relationship with each of these powers is unique and serves different aspects of its national interest. Its rivalry with China is profound. Its partnership with US is strengthening, and its historical ties with Russia are still evolving. To say it's lost to China fundamentally misunderstands India's agency and India's point of view and its strategic objective. So it's completely debunked from my point of view. Now let's turn our attention to Russia. The claim that Russia has been lost to China is admittedly more plausible on the surface, especially given recent geopolitical development. The relationship between Moscow and Beijing has certainly deepened significantly, particularly since Russia's full scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. However, lost word still implies a lack of agency, a complete surrender of Russian interests to China. That's not true at all. It is not at all accurate. Now let's examine Russia-China relationship, which is sort of a partnership. Let's examine it post-Ukraine war alignment. The war in Ukraine has dramatically pushed Russia into China's orbit. Facing Western sanction and isolation, Russia needs China as a market for its energy, a source of goods, and a political ally. There has been an economic dependence on China. China is now Russia's largest trading partner. Russia is supplying discounted oil and gas to China. There has been a very strong military cooperation, increasing joint military exercises, defense technology sharing, rhetorical support for each other. Geopolitical positions are also shared. Both share a desire to counter the US hegemony, and they also have the similar communist rule, sort of authoritarian sort of regime. Both regimes share a similar political ideology of strong, centralized state control, which facilitate the cooperation. And then let's talk about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which also in short known as SCO, and they are also partner in BRICS. These multilateral platforms are crucial for both countries to project influence and build a non-Western centric international order. So let's look at the historical context of Russia and US relationships. And we have to start with after the Cold War, post-Cold War, because whatever happened during the Cold War, we don't want to discuss that, and it was long time ago. So brief, it's like this. After the Cold War, they largely failed to materialize their relationship. There has been a growing tension. So places like Kosovo, Georgia, Crimea, Syria, and there are election interference across the world. A series of events eroded trust between US and Russia. And then Ukraine war was a tipping point. The invasion fundamentally reshaped Russia's global standing and its relationship with the West, forcing it to look towards East. And from Russia's perspective, it is a necessary, move in order to survive. And then while Russia presents this is a strong partnership, most analysts agree Russia is increasingly the junior partner, and its economy is smaller as compared to China, and options are very limited. So let's look at the long-term strategic concern. Despite the current alignment, Russia has historically, having anxiety about China growing influence in Central Asia. A traditional Russian, especially Russia, was a superpower. This suggests that while currently aligned, future friction points could emerge between Russia and China. So Russia move towards China is calculated. Strategic responses to its isolation from the West, not necessarily an ideological conversion or a complete loss of its own foreign objective, policies, etc. It is pragmatic move to survive under sanctions and maintain global relevance. So while Russia's alignment with China is undeniably and deepening, especially in the wake of Ukraine conflict, it is more accurate to describe it as a forced pragmatic partnership driven by necessity. With Russia as the increasingly junior partner, it's an alliance of convenience and shared opposition to the US led order, but not necessarily a seamless merger of interests where Russia has completely ceded its autonomy. The issue with Donald Trump's statement isn't just that it's factually incomplete, but that is oversimplifies a profoundly complex global landscape. International relations are really a binary choice between lost and won. So basically, what is going on right now? There is a emergence of the multipolar world. We no longer live in a simple Cold War bipolar world. Many nations like India actively seeking to maintain relationships with multiple powers to maximize their own benefits and avoid over reliance on one single nation. And then the countries, especially the rising power, prioritize their own national interests above allegiance to any single bloc. This often means transactional relationship with rivals. And then a country might have a strong economic ties with one nation, but critical security partnership with another. This doesn't always align neatly, so there are always gray lines. Current alignment can be tactical response to immediate crises like Russia post Ukraine pivot, etc., rather than irreversible long-term shift. So, what is the danger of this misinterpretation? Such statement can misinform the public and potentially lead to misguided foreign policy decisions if taken at face value. They can also alienate the potential partners by forcing them into categories they don't want to belong into. The nuance of this word called dark China. This term, while rhetorically powerful, obscure the international complexity of China, its varying relationship with different countries, and the motivation behind its foreign policy. The reality is that all of these nations, the US, India, Russia, and China, are acting in their own perceived self interest. Sometimes those interests converge and sometimes they clash. To paint such a broad stroke, claiming two major powers are simply lost to another, ignore the intricate dance of diplomacy, economics, and security that defines our modern world. So, to answer our original question, that is Donald Trump right when he says America has lost India and Russia to the deepest, darkest China? The answer in its simplest form is no, not really. And we have to now further qualify this. India maintains fiercely independent foreign policy. Its relations with US is growing strongly, particularly in defense and strategic cooperation, while its relation with China remains deeply in a flux due to border dispute and geopolitical competition. Its ties with Russia are historical and pragmatic, not an abandonment of the West. Now, if you look at the Russia, summarize the Russia point of view, Russia has indeed moved closer to China, especially after the Ukraine war, driven by their necessity and the shared anti-Western sentiment. However, this is more of a calculated and unequal partnership born of isolation rather than a complete surrender to Chinese dominance or a total loss of Russian strategic objectives. Now, let's look at the Trump statement, which is, oversimplification, and that fails to grasp the complexity of a multipolar world where countries make strategic choices based on their own national interest, not solely on, allegiance to one superpower. While it highlights the legitimate concern about China's growing influence and shifting global order, it misrepresents the agency and the motivation of the key players like India and Russia. Understanding these nuances is crucial for navigating the future of the international relations. It requires moving beyond simplistic binary narratives and embracing the messy, multifaceted reality of the global power dynamics. So, friends, thank you for joining me for this important discussion. I hope this analysis has, provided you with clear picture of this vital geopolitical issue. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I will catch you again in the next one.